Florida head coach Deion Sanders has made a big yet controversial decision to add to his staff.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borber. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys for tuning in. Make me your first listen of the day. Sorry for the later episode in the day. Had some technical difficulties, but we're back, and we're talking about Coach Prime's latest staff edition, I guess you could call it. And it's one that will not be... It's not going to go unnoticed, and it's one that I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of feelings about. But if you're not familiar with what happened, he has officially hired Warren Sapp as a member of his staff. Warren Sapp will be joining as an analyst, so he'll be joining in the analyst position, which is better than I think a lot of people were thinking that he'd be some sort of, I guess you could say, on-field coach or grad assistant, but he will be getting an analyst role with Colorado. So he's a senior analyst and gets an opportunity to coach for the first time. He has no coaching experience. He's obviously an NFL Hall of Famer, has quite a resume on him in terms of football accolades and stuff like that. You look at what he's done on the football field, and he's one of the best to ever do it. Just for those of you that don't know, these are some of the things that Warren Sapp has accomplished in his career. He was an All-American at Miami. He had a 13-year NFL career, had 573 tackles, 96.5 sacks, forced 19 fumbles. He was a 7-time Pro Bowler and was also a Super Bowl champion. But there is a major but when it comes to the hiring of Warren Sapp, because he comes with a little bit of baggage. And I don't know if this hire was one that Deion Sanders absolutely had to make, so the school made an exception, or if Warren Sapp has done work behind the scenes. But there was a lot of controversy surrounding his hiring. Simply because of his past experiences with sexual assault allegations. So when Coach Prime first brought it up that Warren Sapp was joining the staff, the biggest holdup or the thing that was preventing it was the fact that he didn't have a degree. So back in, I forget when it was. I think it was December. Yeah, December. Coach Prime told Rich Eisen to see him go get his diploma, because I know that's what he wants to do. He wants to coach on this staff, and he wants to be a part of the staff, and he's going to be a part of the staff. He's unbelievable. And then he said the kids love Sapp. Oh my God, they love him, because obviously he had been around the program a little bit and had worked with the program a little bit. But as the news developed that he was joining the staff, there was some more digging into his allegations. And so when Steve Holbert, who's a spokesperson for Colorado, was asked about him joining the staff at this time, which was in January, he said there's been no conversations about hiring Warren Sapp for an assistant coach position at the University of Colorado. And then he was questioned if the program was having discussions about hiring Sapp in any capacity, like maybe it was like a analyst, grad assistant, or whatever maybe. And he said, not at this time. So if you guys didn't know, organization called Violence Free Colorado, which is a group that supports domestic violence victims. They came out with a statement back in January and said, by recruiting someone with a history of public allegations of gender-based violence, including domestic violence, they risk promoting violence rather than speaking out against it. They risk saying that violence is excusable if the player or coach is successful. They risk undermining the public work CU has done to speak out against domestic violence. As advocates, we know the answer is not to ignore the allegation against Mr. Sapp, but to address it head on. So some of the allegations include he took a plea deal in 2015 for a misdemeanor domestic battery in which his girlfriend accused him of biting her, throwing her on the floor, and stepping on her head. Prior to that, he was fired from his role at NFL Network, where he was arrested for misdemeanor charges for assaulting and solicitation of a prostitute in Phoenix. He also had a plea deal there to avoid jail time. And then he was included in a civil lawsuit with another employee in 2017 at the NFL Network after a stylist on the show, that he and other employees partook in inappropriate conduct and sexual harassment. The lawsuit said that Sapp urinated with a stylist present and also gifted her sex toys on multiple occasions, which he claimed were brought up in general conversation. So obviously he said there wasn't anything there, or that's his opinion. And then he said in 2010, there was charges of misdemeanor battery dropped in Miami Beach after the woman's statements and evidence were deemed inconsistent. But obviously there is some baggage there. So it's really an interesting hire. I think the school was trying to bring down the noise around it, and I think realistically, Coach Prime has always valued women and bringing in women to share their stories. He's always valued the respect of women. So I think this is more of a chance to turn a lesson into a or turn something into a lesson. Obviously, I do think Coach Prime is going to be questioned about this. I think a lot of people are going to ask him sort of questions about possibly overlooking these allegations. And it's not to say that people don't deserve second chances, but it is definitely an interesting move by Colorado to bring a lot of attention that is unnecessary to the program. Now, what does Warren Sapp bring to the coaching aspect of football? I know there's a lot of off the field baggage. I'm not condoning allegations or sexual assault allegations of any sort, but as a coach, he brings an NFL Hall of Famer. He obviously, Coach Prime talked about this last year, that he helps out the defense line, he helps out the offense line by being able to kind of explain from the defensive line's perspective what they look at or look for on the offensive line. So he brings in a great football mind. He's obviously one of the best football players of all time. There's a new rule that's in the process of trying to be passed where coaches or all coaches can coach on the field at practice and in games. There's actually a rule in place right now. You can only have 11, which includes the head coach. So it's like the head coach plus receivers, running backs, tight ends, like the position coaches. And so now they're trying to make it a rule that everyone can help out, which I think would really increase the value of hiring Warren Sapp, because I think in hiring him and him not coaching, I think that's a very big distraction just to have as a senior analyst. I would just say that it would be an unnecessary hire, but obviously if there's plans for him to be a coach in some sort and work with the players hands on, I do think that there's some value there. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of questions, and rightfully so. And I think there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be that need to be addressed moving forward, because obviously there was a lot of drama surrounding his hiring when it was first rumored, and now that they've hired him, I feel like there's probably going to be some more questions about it as well. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the latest on Colorado spring game. We know where they're playing, we know who's performing, and we know a couple other things. So stay tuned, and I'll tell you about it all when we come back. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Gametime. Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app usually go down with the closer it gets to first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They even have flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your purchase. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Let's see. I was reading through some of the okay, we're not going to bring up the P Diddy situation. I'm not trying to P Diddy anyone. That P Diddy did that to himself. We are talking about the spring game. There was a lot of questions as to where it was going to be televised, where it was going to be broadcasted. I put out a prediction list of 3 things. I think there might have been 4, but I can't remember my 4th one. But I remember 3 of them. It was that it was going to be televised by Fox Sports. Lil Wayne was going to perform, I think was my guess. And then Shador Sanders was going to be announced as the cover athlete of the upcoming college football video game. So far, I'm 1 of 3. Lil Wayne is performing. It is not going to be on Fox Sports. It is not going to be on ESPN, because Fox Sports now has a deal with the Big Ten. So the belief is that they're kind of trying to prioritize their new conference. In terms of ESPN, the spring game is around the NFL draft time. So obviously the NFL draft is a much bigger deal than a glorified scrimmage, to say the least. But and this is kind of like a big hurrah for the Pac-12 network. They obviously will get to broadcast the event. If you're someone who doesn't have the Pac-12 network, this is not a sponsored ad. This is not a plug. This is just me giving advice as someone who started my career there. That was my first job out of school, was at the Pac-12 networks. I was a production assistant. All my family and my girlfriend and everybody wanted to watch what I was doing. And the Pac-12 network doesn't typically isn't typically on your charter or whatever YouTube TV. I don't know if YouTube TV has it, but it's not in a lot of places. But one place that does have it is Fubo TV. So if you really want to check out Colorado spring game, check out Fubo, get your free trial, whatever it is around the spring game. So that way you can watch it and then make sure to cancel that. That'd be my advice to you. But the spring game, yeah, it's a big deal. I feel like Colorado kind of missed out on a huge opportunity to be nationally televised again by scheduling it for the same time as the NFL draft. Obviously, that's an oversight, but nonetheless, there's still a lot of things riding on the spring game for Colorado. They're obviously going to have a ton of recruits. It's still going to be a really big deal to a lot of people nationally. I'm sure a lot of fans will follow my advice and go get some Fubo TV for a little bit and watch a spring game because last year was a big deal. We're going to see a lot of this year. It's going to be better, I think, because majority of the players that are playing are actually going to be on the team. Last year, I'm at the spring game and I'm watching it. And I'm just having conversations with other reporters around the team, and we're all like, oh, well, 90% of these guys will not be here in 2 weeks. So this is a weird game. Like we know Shador and Travis were going to be there, and they were kind of like the big story from it. But everyone else, it was like, I feel like everyone's leaving. And Montana Lamonius Craig was the star of the spring game, and he left. And there was all the offense linemen left, and all the secondary members, like all these guys left. And it was like, okay, that's a little odd, but nonetheless, it's a big deal. Us who watch the game, I'll probably be at the game. We're going to get to see the new offense line in full effect. We're going to get to see a lot of players that are new to the squad. LeJontay Wester, wide receiver, he's going to be out there. Excuse me. So there's going to be a lot of things to take away from the spring game. I think it not being on national television is more of I'd say an oversight by the people who scheduled the game. But realistically, it's still an opportunity for Colorado to improve. It's still an opportunity for fans to kind of figure out who's doing what. And it's maybe an opportunity to get back into the mix in recruitment of a couple major recruits. Michael Fasusi, I believe is how you say his name, 5-star offensive tackle out of Texas, 6'5", 305 pounds, announced his top 7 today, and Colorado was not included. It was USC, Oregon, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Missouri, Georgia, and then the Longhorns. So obviously it's kind of one of those things where he's not currently considering Colorado, but Jordan Seaton took Colorado out of his top schools. So maybe there's always time to get back in the mix, especially if you're Coach Prime. I always say until pen is put to paper, you cannot count Coach Prime out. So again, Colorado spring game, it's going to be a big deal. I think realistically, this is a chance for Colorado to, I think a lot of position battles are going to be not settled, but there's going to be some guys who separate themselves. Like LeJontay Wester and Jimmy Horn are currently in the middle of they're going to be in the middle of a huge position battle. Like Jimmy Horn and LeJontay Wester are going to be fighting for snaps. Maybe we'll get to see someone stand out that spring game if they're both healthy. The offensive line, maybe there's a guy like Tyler Brown who couldn't play last year and he wants to be a starter somewhere across this offensive line. And obviously they brought in 5 new transfers, and Jordan Seaton. So they have 6 new guys. And maybe he gets a chance to kind of prove, you know what, you brought in all these transfers, but you don't need anyone else because I'm here. You look at quarterback, Walter Taylor, Ryan Staub. They're going to be duking it out for that quarterback 2 spot behind Shador. Like all of the spring game aspects are still really important. And I think it's a little disappointing that it's not nationally televised. Well, it's going to be televised, just not on ESPN or Fox Sports. There's still ways to watch it. There's still ways to check it out. I will have you guys covered every step of the way, and you guys know that. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I think a lot of people were curious to see how it worked out. And obviously it didn't work out how they planned. But either way, I do think it's still a big event and it'll still be pretty fun. So go check it out. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors, our good old sponsors over at Amazon Fire TV. And let me tell you about Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as a Fire Stick TV that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us over here at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention, great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. Thank you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. Like I say all the time, we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. We're talking about Julian Lewis, the quarterback, the 5-star. Everyone wants him. Everyone in the country wants him, at least. But Colorado has a big uphill battle to climb to get him. It's no secret that USC is already in the lead because obviously they hold his commitment. It's no secret that Georgia is kind of lurking. I think I saw one recruiting insider say if Georgia wants him, they will get him. And there's also a lot of people, other programs like, say, Indiana, who got a visit from him, who want him badly. So Colorado is in the mix for this guy. They're hosting him for visits. I believe he's going to be there around the spring game. Realistically, he is someone who I think could be the easiest target to. He took a second visit to Colorado last week, and I think that it was a big deal for Colorado to get him on campus for a second time. But he's one of the biggest targets in the country. Obviously, everyone wants a 5-star quarterback, especially if you're Colorado, who doesn't really have their quarterback of the future on the roster, I think, or at least that's what I believe. But if you're not familiar with his game, number 9 quarterback in the country, number 9 player in the country, number 2 quarterback, number 3 player in the state of Georgia, has nearly 40 offers. His breakdown is he's a de facto point guard on the gridiron that could distribute the ball like few others. He doesn't have like a crazy build, but has an ability to scan the field and manipulate defenses with his eyes. So he's really smart. A lot of touch, a good enough arm, and he just makes the right plays at the right times, which obviously Shedeur has a really big arm, but Shedeur makes the right plays at the right times. And I think Colorado's big selling point to him is that they're going to let him play early because obviously he comes in and probably starts. That is I guess you could say, the pitch to him. He comes in, replaces Shedeur Sanders. You're a 5-star at Colorado. You're probably going to have a chance to play right away. And I think for Colorado, it's a big selling point. I also feel like they need to get a little NIL heavy here. I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about Colorado's NIL improvements, but obviously there's just so many things that they need to do to get him on campus again. He visited on March 22nd. Sounded like he liked his visit. He talked about how they've been pitching that he could play soon. He watched him practice. But again, it is a big deal for everyone in the country to have a top 5 quarterback on their roster. And for Colorado to land a quarterback, that would be huge. I think there's a lot of questions about which positions Coach Prime may struggle to recruit. He obviously has no issues recruiting skill positions. He'll never have issues getting a defensive back or a wide receiver. You got Jordan Seaton in the trenches, all the offensive linemen in the trenches in the portal too. That was big. Now he needs to go out and get an elite quarterback. Can he do that? He's lost 2 quarterback commits. Obviously, Danny O'Neal was a Sean Lewis guy. Followed him to San Diego State. And then Antoine Hill, he's someone who was pledged to Colorado and then backed off his pledge. He has schools like Duke, Florida, Texas A&M, all in the mix for him. Florida State as well. So Coach Prime really needs to make a statement, I think, by landing a top quarterback. Now, it's easier said than done to land a top quarterback, and you guys could comment below which quarterbacks you think Colorado should pursue, but there's a lot of quarterbacks out there. I won't lie to you. Julian Lewis is probably the pinnacle of them. I'm just going to look at the quarterbacks that they've offered, and we could go there. We could go from there and just kind of discuss who they're interested in. But Bo Jackson is someone, he's unranked right now out of West Bloomfield, Michigan, 6'4", 200 pounds. He has, I think it's like 6 offers. Yeah, 6 offers from like Ferris State, Bowling Green, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, excuse me. So he's someone that Colorado's pursuing. They wanted Bryce Underwood, who's the number 1 player in the country. He's already pledged to LSU. They wanted George McIntyre, Tennessee pledged, 5-star. Julian Lewis is a 5-star committed to USC. There's Hussein Longstreet from Corona, California, which is a big one. Antoine Hill, maybe they could get back in the mix there. But a lot of their quarterbacks are already committed. So I think Coach Prime and his offensive staff have a big battle ahead of them of landing their next quarterback. And I think if they go all in on Julian Lewis, that would be a quarterback to go all in on. but I do think that they probably need to bring in two. And you also probably need to bring in a transfer because obviously you need quarterback experience just in case it doesn't go well. Because I don't know what their quarterback situation looks like after Shador Sanders. Like I said, I think Julian Lewis is kind of like the prize pick for them. But it's going to be interesting because a lot of these quarterbacks, they've offered a total of 25, and there are currently, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of them, 12 of them are uncommitted. So a lot of these quarterbacks are flying off the boards already. You kind of want to get your quarterback early so that way you can build your class around them. But then again, Colorado doesn't have a 2025 commit yet. So big recruiting year ahead of them. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs and making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, give me those 5 stars on Spotify and Apple, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to comment any questions you want me to discuss with guests coming up. We have some really cool guests, and you guys won't want to miss out. We have spring ball questions, predictions, maybe my hair care routine. I don't know. Just ask questions, and I will gladly divulge in you guys and tell you guys everything I know. Appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a great start to your week. Hope you guys had a great Easter if you celebrate, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. Have a great one.